Greetings and welcome to part 8 of jonbenetramsey Sketchy Details, the extremely long overdue part 8. Since I have unintentionally left you hanging for so long, I figured to hell with an explanation, and I'm just going to jump right in where we left off. This video, as well as every video in the jonbenetramsey Sketchy Details series, are intended for educational purposes only and are protected underneath the Fair Use Act. So for number 54, we're going to talk about the pineapple, which originally was something that was never on my list, and I thought it was not important to the case because I felt it was a huge distraction piece that was put on by either a paid-off coroner or paid-off media or whomever was pushing and stressing the pineapple fact. Until very, very recently. I was going through a forum, which I believe was a forum for justice. I'm not 100% positive, as unfortunately I did not save that search. Very disappointed about that, but either way, the comment was from a professional expert of some sort. I can't remember if it was a forensic expert or a criminal expert or what. But this expert said that the pineapple was brought up because it was the only thing that was found in her stomach. And that for some reason, the pineapple itself, or at least the mystery behind whomever served her the pineapple, overshadowed the fact that it was the only thing that was in her stomach. Why was this fact ignored or overshadowed? I feel it is a very important piece of factual evidence. How the hell is a child who had just returned home from a family holiday dinner party have an empty stomach besides just a few bites of pineapple? I want to reference one of the past points that I brought up on where I referenced Red Dragon Gnosis's video where he talks about Patsy feeding JonBenet happiness in the form of pineapple before she died. The link between the happiness and the pineapple being from the prime of Miss Jean Brodie. Well, with that in mind, isn't this something that sounds like a mother? Okay, let me start over with that. If JonBenet was purposefully being starved, or at least being deprived of food, doesn't that sound like something a mother would do? Sneak her starving daughter some food in the middle of the night so that nobody else could see or witness her betraying the rules. Now I know you may be asking yourself, what the fuck is she talking about? Starvation, rules, what the hell? Well, I promise that I'm going to explain that better in this video. I'm hoping that I can tie a lot of loose ends together in this video, but for now, let's move on to number 55. So we all remember a man by the name of John Mark Karr now, don't we? Well, let's take a look at what John Mark Karr has been up to since his false confession. Take a little side note of the usage of 3 names. So in 2008, a Seattle court document officially has his name changed to Alexis Reich and his gender identity to female. Take a side note of the Nazi symbolism with the chosen last name. Talks of a sex change were in the plans, but they were put on hold after his new fiancée requested so, a 23-year-old whom had a 4-year-old daughter, and this woman was not and is not the only wife that John Mark Karr has had. So let's take a look at his past. John was born December 11th, 1964 in the United States state of Georgia. take a side note of the birth location being Georgia and a December birthday. He, at the age of 20, I believe in 1984, married his first wife, Quintana Schatz, who had just turned 13 years old. He did so by forging her age on the birth certificate, or the marriage certificate, excuse me. They would be divorced less than a year later. His second wife was only 16 when he married her. She ended up bearing him 3 children, 3 boys, after having miscarried what would have been their first children, which were 2 twin girls, during a home birthing because he refused to let her go to the hospital. His youngest son, he decided to name Seven Exodus. So his second wife's name was Laura Knudsen. Friends of the couples would later account of John's jealousy playing a role in her not being allowed to go to the hospital, citing, he said, that he didn't want the doctor looking at or touching Laura's genitals. Both of his ex-wives would later come out and give different accounts of John threatening their lives and or threatening them with other sick vile things, and of John having grotesque and degrading sexual requests from them. So I give you both of his ex-wife's names because ideally I want you to go and research both of their stories, because there are a lot of facts about the stories that I left out due to their graphic nature, but they paint a very good picture of the type of person that John Mark Karr was and is. He was married to Laura in 1989, so fast forward to 2001, and John Mark Karr is living in Petaluma, California. He has a very short-lived teaching job where he is fired for inappropriate conduct with female students, and shortly after that, he is wanted on 5 charges of child molestation and misconduct, sexual misconduct with a minor, which is why he fled the United States and was in Bangkok before having to flee to Thailand, because Bangkok authorities wanted him for more molestation charges because he was an English teacher at one of their elite schools and was also caught inappropriately interacting with female students. And so he was in Thailand when he was extradited for his false confession in 2006. Now, John Mark Karr has a plethora of very short-lived teaching gigs, most of which were substitute teaching gigs and or English language teaching gigs in foreign countries. But he's been all over the world. He's been to Germany, Paris, Bangkok, Thailand, Honduras, Costa Rica, among other places. While facing similar charges in San Francisco, the Attorney General, California, located in San Francisco at the time, dismissed all his charges, citing the mishandling of evidence, and that Attorney General was Kamala Harris. Fast forward to 2017, and Alexis Reich, or John Mark Karr, is running his own official website titled, you guessed, jonmarkkarr.com, and he runs it by himself. It is extremely telling of the type of person that he is, because while he runs it himself and he gives a lot of his 2 cents on things, including the JonBenet Ramsey case. But what I want to pull your attention to is the fact that I think he did have a sex change after all, because on his website he is advocating for male castration. He uses a medical term, but the underlying procedure is male castration. He is saying that that is the only cure for pedophiles that pedophilia is a mental disorder with no cure, except for male castration, followed by 5 years of imprisonment. I'm not sure if he did that whole imprisonment thing. I'm not even really sure if I think he got the sex change. This could all just be a really weird ruse to get people to think that he is reformed by being a female and being castrated and advocating for male castration, citing that his overall absolute love for children is what made him realize his sins and do what he did. He tries telling the readers of his content that he is on the same team as them, that he's on the team of the child, and to protect the child, people should consider male castration. I just don't believe it. I don't buy it. Like, he has too much of an extensive past with it. Plus, it's like, so as of 2017, he lives in Aberdeen, Washington. And he even wrote to a local newspaper there saying that he wants to be accepted as a normal human being there and be able to live a happy and friendly life there. Yet at the same time, holding seances at his historical house that he was renovating, where he would try to contact JonBenet. Why would someone confess to a crime that they did not commit? Well, maybe to get out of a different international charge for the same exact thing. The Bangkok charges. That was to get him away because Bangkok was hot on his heels. And so he was extradited first class straight to Los Angeles, the Twin Towers in Los Angeles first, and then to Boulder. Have no doubt that this was arranged for him. Someone within the United States contacted him and devised this plan with him to confess to this crime that he was nowhere near, and to save him from being captured by the Bangkok authorities. Saved from what? Why would somebody want to save him? Well, consider this. Weren't the Ramseys sort of saved from serving time for a crime? Sort of in the same way that John Mark Karr was being saved. Now, on his website, if you go to jonbenetramsey.com, you will see that he tries really hard to get sympathy points from whomever is willing to give them to him. I'm sorry, but you do not confess to a horrific crime like that, falsely showing that you have some weird, sick fascination with it, at the very least, and then have all these extensive history of molestation charges and being fired from teaching jobs because of inappropriate conduct, and you keep trying to get teaching jobs because you clearly want to be around the children. And then on top of all of that, you get a sex change, so you try to hide who you really are behind a female, no less. I'm sorry, being a real, natural-born female, I take offense to that. But you don't do all those things and then get sympathy and expect to get treated like a normal person. You are not a normal person. I'm sorry, but you're not. You're disgusting, and you should be jailed. But he also clearly has a personality disorder. Whom else do we think has a personality disorder? Patsy Ramsey. These families, the Karrs and the Ramseys, they tie together a lot more than just this case. I don't think Patsy knew John Mark Karr. John Ramsey may have known John Mark Karr, but I'm not sure. Also, on John Mark Karr's website, he talks about a girl who was murdered in Petaluma, California. Her body was discovered feet away from John Mark Karr's house. One of the threats that he did to, I believe, his second wife, so Laura, was that he threatened her that he had already killed children before, and that they were buried in the basement of the house that they both lived in. Mind you, he made that threat to her before the murder of JonBenet. John Mark Karr also claims that when he was a child, a baby, his mother tried to kill him. Well, his mother was institutionalized in a mental institution and died when he was 12. Now I know this one especially seems like I'm just like rambling off a bunch of like horrible facts about John Mark Karr, but I'm bringing up each one of these things for very specific reasons. However, I am not saying that I think he killed her. I just want you to pay attention to the patterns. It's all going to come together and tie together. I can't promise it'll be in this video, but it will be in this series. So let's move on to number 56 real quick. This one is more of an update or a correction to one that we already discussed. So I no longer think that Bill McReynolds was that secret Santa. I think that that secret Santa was Patsy. She said it herself when she told the cops, well, JonBenét would go with Santa. She knew that, but I'm going to leave you guys on a cliffhanger and move on to 57 because, like I said, these are all going to tie together. Now, 57 is also kind of a correction. So, it's obvious that Patsy wrote the ransom note. But last you and I left off, the ransom note was something that I absolutely hated and felt was the biggest distraction piece from the very beginning. And I couldn't decide if she wrote it willingly or not. Well, she did. And she wrote it on her own without John knowing, and it's half a warning to John, but the other half is full of clues and specific symbology known to Patsy. So I fully believe that Patsy was leaving clues and that she really, really wanted to get caught. She wanted the police that were there that morning to find the body and not for John to have to bring it up. She wanted to get caught because she thought that her clues, especially in the ransom note, were going to be enough for the authorities to piece it together. Her body language, from peering through her fingers at Officer French to her sitting like a mother hen above the body the whole time, these are all clues. She was trying so hard to get caught. So in the note, she mentions 2 men looking after your daughter. This isn't the only time that she mentions 2 people being responsible. In that interview where we discussed, where she's pointing at John and she says there's 2 people that know the killer and someone that killer may have confided in. I no longer think that the other person is her. I think that the other person is her father. So in the note, during the confusion where she says that John has good Southern sense, and everybody was saying, well, she's the one with it. Well, I think it was because in her mind, she had a confusion and a mix-up between her father and John. So Don, Paugh, and John, because Don is from the South and would have Southern common sense, as she called it. That's not the only reason why I think that, though, because I believe number 2 in the very first video of this series is where I bring up the these 2 set of shoe prints, and I state that one of them is the SAS shoe print, which is widely known for being worn by elderly people. I think that that could have been Don Paugh's footprint. So, you know, I kind of think that she means that I think that she feels that they're responsible for JonBenét dying. That's not saying that Patsy thinks that they killed JonBenét, but she holds her father and her husband responsible in her mind for the reasons why JonBenét died. Another clue is how she starts the letter at all. She says, listen carefully. She's trying to grab the authorities' attention. Listen very carefully. You have to read between the lines in this ransom note because it's not what it seems. Also, she is referencing the movies to also be a clue. Those were movies that were played in Boulder around Christmas time. Come on, she was trying to grab their attention and she knew that that was fresh on their minds. Plus, it matched the scenario of what was happening. She changes from attaché to a brown paper bag. The brown paper bag is in reference to the brown paper bag that was found on John Andrews' bed in their house, of which a few fibers were found to be on JonBenét's bed. Something was in that brown paper bag. possibly photographs, or maybe it's what held the rope. I don't know. Nobody knows. Maybe that's what she bought the duct tape in, but something had to do with that brown paper bag. I also forgot, with the clue of it being Dawn and John, is because she uses the term fat cat. Everybody knew that Dawn used that word a lot, so she was giving clues as to who was responsible, at least in her mind. Like, as I stated, her father was a 32nd degree Mason, okay? That is the second to last level that you can get to. That is very high, that's very hard to get to. And I kind of feel like he was gonna graduate to the 33rd with JonBenet. Another clue, this one may be a unconscious clue on her behalf, but the misspelling of the word possession. The misspelling of the word possession is a topic that happens between the characters of the movie Miss Jean Brodie, the book that she is obsessed with. Also, I do not find it to be a coincidence that she put her in Long John's. Come on, Long John's? It's not a coincidence, in my opinion. I also feel like Patsy being in the same outfit from the day before relates to her telling them in the note to be well rested. Why would a kidnapper tell someone to get rest if they were already asleep? She was trying to show that there was events going on in the house that lasted all night, that they didn't sleep, that there was a lot of chaos going on the entire night. Everybody already knows that Psalms 118 played a big part in Patsy's life. I'm going to read you some of the verses from Psalm 118 that I find to have stuck out in my head in relation to Patsy. I'll start from the lowest one. Okay, so 18:8. It's better to take refuge in the Lord than to trust in man. 18:10. All the nations surround me, but in the name of the Lord I cut them down. Why do I choose Psalms 8 and 10? Is because in the letter she says she'll call between 8 and 10 a.m. Psalms 18:15. Shouts of joy and victory resound in the tents of the righteous. 18:20. This is the gate of the Lord through which the righteous may enter. 18:23. The Lord has done this, and it is marvelous in our eyes. Psalms 18:27. The Lord is God, and he has made his light shine upon us. With bows in hand, bind the festal sacrifice with cord to the horns of the altar. Bows, bows, whatever. It's Boughs. What are boughs? Boughs are sticks or twigs, a smaller single branch of a tree. I firmly believe that the marks in her hand, I already told you guys, I thought were indentions or cuts or scrapes. It could be from the sticks. When you get a branch or a twig, it has multiple smaller twig sticks sticking off of it. If she was grasping it, that could be what it's from. The sign-off of SBTC, I do now firmly believe, is saved by the cross. All these psalms that I just read you kind of could be translated into a believer of God gaining victory over the influences of evil in their life. And just think about that in pertaining to JonBenet and Patsy. Patsy feeling like she has won victory over the evils in her life by sacrificing her daughter. I do not believe... it's really hard, okay? So I believe that multiple people are involved for the events that transpired Christmas night, 1996. 1996. I think I said too many nines right there. Two major things took place. There was already a pre-planned ritual, and then there is what Patsy planned. Patsy had her own ritual planned. Now, since this video has already ran into 25 minutes, this is the end of part 8. Obviously, I'm making a part 9, and to come in that video is going to be explanation of Patsy's plan. And to come in this series in general, Conclusions tying a lot of the previous numbers from the previous videos, as well as a connection between this murder, or at least what happened around this murder, and a death of a very famous producer, as well as going into detail about the different rankings of the Scottish Rite of the Freemasonry, which is the section of Freemasonry I believe Patsy's father to be from, and going into more detail about this giant group that we talked about in this video and previous videos. As always, God bless. Evil on this scale is impossible to comprehend. To know who murdered JonBenet Ramsey would be to know where we are, what world we live in.